inwards.
Well, is it he or she?
He,
Does he have nice legs?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I tried.
I haven't seen you. She, I don't think she likes me.
Is she racist?
I don't think so. She's black.
Well, that's true.
My mom just said the same thing. You're a race. I'm like, oh.
Well, maybe she envies the way you look. Maybe she wishes that she was as beautiful as you are.
She don't like me to participate in class.
Well, do you say nice things?
Yes, I answer questions.
Relevant things?
Yes, her class doesn't talk
Do you sound more educated than she is?
maybe.
That's just play dumb.
I'm not gonna play dumb.
Play. Don't you want to get like an A?
I got an A in the class. Just don't like me to participate.
Don't participate. Just get the A and get out. What is wrong with you?
Let's take the fun out of it.
Oh, you just want to like push people around. Ah, I see.
I want her to let. I wanted to let her know that I know how to answer these questions because her class don't do nothing but sit there.
Well, it's kind of like this class. You don't do anything here.
At least they ask questions.
That's very
When they
true.
ask questions, they don't say nothing. That class is quiet. It's 4 people that talk in that class.
What class is it? Ah, yuck. All right, Jerry, how's your cell phone? Is it working? I see, okay. Nayland, anything new?
I don't think I'm ready here.
Why?
I have a
Date? A what? CPR, that's mouth to mouth, no? Well, it really all depends on whose mouth you're mouthing. They don't?
No, it's like a little man.
Yeah, they got
Oh man, that's too bad.
Yeah, they changed it.
Gotta stop germs. Don't let another COVID.
I gotta talk to my wife about that.
The guy's got COVID.
Wear masks. Where do you get the masks?
It comes in the CPR kit.
Yeah.
Well, can you get me some?
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I'll give you extra credit.
I will.
Oh, you guys.
I got an operation.
Oh, you do, that's right. Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah,
Sucks to get old.
yeah, it does. It's my motto.
All right, let's do something fun. Ivan, anything? Okay. Carmen? Well, I'm not really fun at all. When I got married to my wife, she was impressed by how much I made her laugh. Then she got depressed because of how much I made her cry. By the time she realized that, we were married and had 5 kids. So, you know, first you throw the bait out there and then you kill him. I'm sorry, so you were going to ask some unfun question.
What role does philosophy play in politics?
Probably nothing. There was a woman on Politically Incorrect, I think, or Political Incorrectness. This was a show by Bill Maher many, many years ago before it got canceled. And it got canceled because he had said something about the US involvement in 9/11, or perhaps that those who attacked New York were justified, so they canceled the show. But nevertheless, usually he had 3 or 4 or 5 guests, each from different walks of life, and Bill Maher, very much like this class, would throw out some idea out there, and the 4 people would just jump at the idea like dogs and cats. And so there was a woman whose name I've forgotten, but she wrote many books about relationships, like how to keep a relationship going. She had this wonderful philosophy of relationships, keeping marriage going. And I remember she was invited on 3, 4 times. And the last time she was on the show, she started talking like all the stuff, philosophy of marriage, relationships, communication. And then someone in the audience asked, "So, are you married?" She said, "No." "Are you divorced?" "Yes." "Well, how many times have you been married and how many times have you been divorced?" I've been married 4 times and divorced 4 times. And so the person asked, well, if what you have written has not helped you, what makes you think that it's going to help us? And I suppose the point I'm trying to make is, I sit in my office for about 3-4 hours and write. But when I want to apply the stuff I think about, it's nearly impossible. So philosophy is good. Philosophy of politics is good. So long as it remains up here. You can write about it, think about it. But the moment you try to bring it down to apply it, it doesn't work too well. Consider for a moment, and forgive me for taking you this path, consider for a moment Jesus Christ. I don't know if you know much about him. Supposedly he's a very, very wise man. He was some 2,000 years ago, and he's even more wise today because of the advertisement around him. But while he was alive, look, he left his house at the age of 12 in questing wisdom. Supposedly he found it. He spoke to God, came back, found himself 12 disciples, all of them betraying him. Then he went to the Jews, they betrayed him. He went to his own people, they betrayed him. And eventually he got crucified. So as long as things remain inside your head, they sound really good, they look really good. It's kind of like all of us in this class. You get yourself in a relationship and you have all these wonderful ideas how you're going to be. And then it touches ground. And little by little it becomes more and more contaminated. And before you know it, you want out. Are there some beautiful ideas out there talking about justice and freedom and equality? Absolutely. Are they applicable? Well, where we are right now in our society, in our psychological evolution, probably not. But are they helpful? Yes. Will their wings be clipped by special interest groups? Yes. Will they be contaminated by lobbyists? Definitely. By human greed and lust for power? Yeah. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the French philosopher, wrote this big, fat book called Amir. It's about educating the young. Beautiful book. 50,000 pages. He loves children. He thinks that they are our future. He had 9 kids. He had no patience to raise them. He placed all of them in foster care. Plato, he was a wise man. You know what he did most of his life? He sat in a corner and wrote. He didn't find the human ears or the human mind, the human heart, a decent place to place his ideas, so he wrote. And writing is a very, very solitary, experience. You sit somewhere, no one talks to you, you don't look at anyone. The only intimate relationship you have is with yourself. And should you be a professional writer, you will never, ever, ever be able to be with another human being in an intimate way because you're preoccupied with yourself and your thoughts. I'm sorry, you asked some question and I went somewhere else.
I think more specifically, when people bring in religion,
It's a question that Naylan asked on Monday, and I think I didn't really answer it well. Monday was an awful day. I had a fight with my wife. I hated both of my kids. There's a third one. Yeah?
How do you choose the number of kids like every time?
Well, by...
One, you have 5, you have 9, like how many kids do you actually have?
That's a kill song.
Well...
Yeah.
Jure, truth is not fun, and neither is honesty. They're kind of just bland. Like, what's your name? Amir. Look, I went to the bank a couple days ago, and this really nice, attractive young woman looks at me and says, "Can you identify yourself?" I wanted to cash a check. It was a stolen check, but nevertheless, it was in my hands. So I asked her if she had a mirror. She said yes. So can I borrow it from him? And she gives it to me. And I asked her because she was wearing a lot of makeup. And people who wear a lot of makeup usually have like a few mirrors in their bags. So she gives me this mirror. I look myself in the mirror and I say, yes, that's me, all right. My check was cashed. I come from a culture of storytellers. And stories are fun. Stories take you to places where your feet can't take you. If I tell you that I got 2 kids, you say, okay, he's got 2 kids. But if I tell you I have 2, and then 10 minutes later I have 5, and 20 minutes later I have 25, now you have some questions. Now we have an intimate relationship. You may not want the intimacy, but that's how the class comes to life. I didn't have kids because I love kids. You just have kids. What? What? Who? Oh, religion. Yeah? What was your question?
The role religion has in culture.
So, religion doesn't really have a single definition. If you ask a man who's been divorced a few times, what is the definition of a relationship? He'll probably say it's poison. If you ask my father, who's been married for about 7 years, he'll say it's a blessing. If you ask a 10-year-old, he'll say, I don't know, really, I think it's just 2 people having sex. So the point I'm trying to make is that people with different walks of life, with different history, different bags of experiences, they define things differently, okay? So that's number 1. Religion has no single definition. The word religion, without contaminating with human experience, means going back to the roots. In other words, let's say you remember vividly that when you were 5, you laughed belly laughs. And this is a time when life did not burden you, where you were not contaminated, where you didn't feel responsible for anything really. Your only task in life was to wake up in the morning, flap your wings, and soar to the heavens and have a good time with life. As you grow up, as you mature, as you become a bit more responsible, wash dishes, vacuum, do schoolwork and this and that, you realize you really no longer have the time to fly. And so your belly laughs, basically after a while, turns into a laugh that comes from your chest. But after a while, even that becomes too much because life demands too much from you. Then you just kind of open your mouth and then you have a stupid grin on your face. And then around the age 25, 26, 30, maybe you walk in this class, you say, what the hell happened to these people? How come nobody talks? How come nobody says anything interesting? And then you go back in time and you say, you know what? I want to have a belly laugh. You want to go back home. You have experienced something that reminds you of the time of innocence, being unburdened, not being contaminated by life. And so that is what religion basically means. Now, if, for example, you have someone like George Bush, okay? Supposedly he happens to be a religious man, or Jimmy Carter, that's a better example, okay? If there is pornography, I don't know if but you weren't born really way back then, but he had an interview with Barbara Walters, if I'm not mistaken, and she asked Jimmy Carter while he was president, do you have any sins? And he says, yes, I have lust in my heart. Sometimes I have sexual fantasies. I'm just putting words in his mouth, okay? Now, Trump wouldn't have any difficulty saying, I'm very proud to close my eyes and think about all these women, but Jimmy Carter did. So Jimmy Carter tried to bring some religious sentiments to the White House, to politics, okay? The more secular-minded you are, the more grounded you are, dare I say, the more realistic and practical you are. If I'm a religious man and I run into you at Pete's Coffee, I say, oh, God pushed me to go to Pete's Coffee, run into Carmen, create this attraction inside me. I'm going to pursue Carmen because the hands of gods are involved. That's me. Okay. If on the other hand, I'm a secular-minded person, I go to Pete's, say, oh, okay. Well, there's Carmen. She looks okay. Let me go say hello and see if I can get her number. And then do A, B, C, D. So those who are religious and politicians and have a good amount of power, they try to bring their own definition of religiosity into the realm of power. Those who are more secular-minded, they don't. If that makes any sense. Are you familiar with Iran, the country? Did you hear the news that a few days ago they shot some torpedoes to Israel? Yeah. Did you know that Iran is a religious country? Did you also know that before sending those torpedoes to Israel, they actually called Israel, told them the destination of where those things are going? That's politics and religion combined. But it's secular religion. And politics is a vicious game, you know. If you have the stomach for it, and if you have an ounce of decency, it may be okay. But after a while, you just get too contaminated. You forget. Yes, Ivan. Oh, sorry.
What happened this morning with the
Who?
red? Something happened this morning.
I don't know. All I know is that a few days ago we were told that, when I say we, I got the news from my brother, that Israel was going to drop some bombs somewhere in Iran, but it hasn't happened yet. But I'm sure Israel will call someone in Iran, tell them we're going to, you know, this is the address, so make sure no one's there. So it'll give the rest of us the illusion that, you know. So, anyone else?
Is it possible for two people to fall in love right now? Other than just like talking? Is that real?
So, Nightline was a show on ABC or CBS. ABC canceled a long time ago, but they had these segments about predators, about these adults over the age of 18, and they were usually in their like mid-30s or 40s or 50s, and they would have conversations on the phone with underage girls below the age of 18. So they would talk on the phone, they would, I think, email one another, but, and then the girl would say, why don't you come over? Now the guy one lives in Nebraska and the girl lives in like Detroit, right? And the guy says, okay. And he is infatuated. And he will do whatever he possibly could. He rents a car, doesn't have any money, sells a few stuff, puts some gas in the tank, and drives all the way to Kentucky. And the cops are waiting for him. But the point of the show was that, of course, the girl didn't tell this guy that she was like 12 or 14 or 15. Okay? But nevertheless, the point I'm trying to make is that you and I have never met each other. And then I get an email from you and says, well, would you like to be my pen pal? Okay. And in a time where I am lonely, I'm a little older, I live in my studio, I have nothing going for me, and all of a sudden I get an email, which is a blessing for me because now I have someone to talk to vent, share my history with. and let's just say you're serving some time, or maybe you are in the same situation as I am, you begin to write, and then you send the letter towards me. I open the letter and I look at your penmanship, your handwriting, and it's majestic and it's beautiful. I had a student, Brian, he's currently in Iran doing his PhD in Persian literature. His mother came to sit in my class one day, and we kept in touch just for a short while, and then she wrote me this letter, handwritten. It was beautiful. It was like being in the presence of God. Okay, it was cursive, and I just fell in love with it. I still have it, and I've been wanting to frame it for the past 20 years, but never got a chance to. But it's still there somewhere. And so I fall in love with your handwriting, and then I say, okay, do I have the time, the patience to read through the cursive, to look at the content? So first, it's what is appearing itself to me, which is the handwriting. Then I look at the content to say, is there substance to it? Because if there is substance, you give me access to your mind. Okay. And I say to myself, oh my God, this is really, really interesting. Now, you providing some content and substance means you're giving me access to your history. And I have to find that history is a little bit attractive, interesting. Okay, especially now because you have maybe 2-3 seconds to catch my attention. I mean, with 5,000 TV channels out there and everybody is like a predator of your psyche, if they don't catch you in the first couple of seconds, they've lost. Okay, so you try to give me the best of the things that you have, and I am captured. And so one of the things that then happens is I say, okay, well, maybe I should write back. And I write back because I am interested, I'm attracted, and I don't want this attraction, to this umbilical cord, to be cut off. So immediately, even though I wanted to go for a walk, I wanted to go see my parents, do ABCD, I put everything on pause, and I write a letter back. And I go and FedEx it to you. Okay? And every single day, I go check the mailbox to see if you've written back. And you have. Now, there comes a point, and remember, every time I go to the mailbox, I go with a good amount of thirst and hunger. I yearn to be in the presence of you in the form of a letter. There comes a point where, through this medium called writing, I have this dim image of you. But the way human beings function, it's not enough for me to just imagine you. Okay? I want to come and see you. I want to touch you. I want to smell you. I want intimacy. That's how things work. Now, is it true that at a certain point in this relationship, through letters, our relationship can be terminated? Absolutely. But if there is enough attraction that eventually blossoms into obsession and then love, that is a strong enough force to drive me to where you are physically. So yes. But should I never get the opportunity to meet you physically, there will come a point where I will just give up. It's not enough for me to find a sufficient amount of intimacy through my imagination. Yeah. But falling in love is just stupid. Howard, and then love.
I want to ask that you over what that means to make something
Applicable? Okay. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Oh. Do you get drunk? Do you want to? Good job. Well, let's just say that you are a professional smoker. You live in Oakland. And by default, that makes you a pro. And you smoke a bucket a day, like a 5-gallon bucket. So you're always like sitting near Jesus Christ. By chance, you go to Pete's Coffee and you run into a young woman, and we're assuming you're heterosexual. And let's just say her name is Cadence. Not this one. She doesn't like you that much. Another Cadence. And she finds you very handsome, very attractive. She walks to you, says, "Hi. What's up? I like you. Do you like me back?" And you say yes. After spending some time with her, she says to you, "I need you to quit smoking because you're an embarrassment to me. I can't take you to my parents, and I desperately want you to meet my parents. And I want my parents to meet you. But my father doesn't like people who smoke or drink. Can you quit?" You say yes. Because you like her, you say yes. But just because you say yes, it doesn't mean that you're able to overcome 10, 15, 20 years of addiction. You're just inspired to say yes. For that particular moment in time, everything stops. You don't smoke for maybe 2 hours. But then this woman has to go to work, and you find some free time. You don't really know what to do with free time. You've never been trained well, so you go and smoke to just distract yourself from the burden of being free and then making choices. And since you've never done that, you just smoke. She comes home after a few hours, and there's this odor. She says, "You did it again, didn't you?" Kind of like Britney Spears. Okay? So you did it again, and she is very unhappy with you. And she says, "Listen, I need you to quit." Okay? And she takes your phone, and she looks at your contacts, and she comes to realize you have 20 contacts on your phone. 19 and a half of them are dealers. So everyone in your circle smokes, and you've known them for about 20 years, and you call them friends. She deletes all of them. Now, not seeing the names in your cell phone is one thing. Not thinking about these friends is another. And now psychologically, you've cultivated or developed a habit in the past 20 years. Every day from 9 to 10 in the morning, I smoke. 11 to 12, I smoke. 2 to 3, I smoke. 4 to 5, I smoke. So every 2 hours you smoke. That's a routine. And it's going to be very difficult for you to overcome. Now, your woman assumes that just because she asks you to quit and you say yes, it's a done deal. She doesn't know that we are creatures of habit. She doesn't really know how complicated it is to overcome any routine. She just demands. And you being naive, you just say, okay. And so the essay question is, okay, so you want to quit. Give me the steps. Okay, so you delete all the names that you have in your cell phone. Psychologically, when you hunger, yearn to smoke, what do you do then? Because all you got to do is just walk to this corner and you can find someone who can sell you something. How do you stop yourself from doing that? Can you do that without becoming disgusted, without examining, without reflecting, without being passive, without making your history, addiction irrelevant? And the answer is no. And so when you're unable to adequately write the specifics, the steps, it just tells me, your essay is nothing but a set of bumper stickers. You don't really understand anything. And the tragedy is, it's not really a tragedy, it's just something normal. You're young. All you have are just bumper stickers. You don't have anything else. I'm religious. Well, that's a bumper sticker. I'm a student. Another bumper sticker. I love my girlfriend, another bumper sticker. And so I have no choice but to sit back and read a collection of bumper stickers that don't mean anything. Does that, okay. Yeah.
Think we'll ever move away from marriage because of how modern divorce.
So, I don't really know, to be honest. Marriage gave us something that life was not able to give us. Life gives you insecurity, instability. You're sitting in your room and all of a sudden there's a hurricane. You're sitting in your room and all of a sudden there's an earthquake. You're sitting in your room and all of a sudden there's a war. 100 years ago, the motto was, only death do us part. I'm not talking about now, where our vows are not taken that seriously. And even if you were to take your vows seriously, the truth is, the social structure doesn't really allow you to take those vows very seriously. They've been watered down. But marriage gave us something profoundly stable, that in health or in sickness, your companion is going to be with you. You know. And oftentimes what you would find is that should your spouse die, you wouldn't remarry. You would remain a widow until your time came to go towards the sunset. I'm talking about long time ago. But it's true. Men usually had more power in society than women did. I think for the most part, marriage for us has the same definition as it did for our parents, for us. But there are lots of footnotes for us currently. And those footnotes eventually become part of the big print that oftentimes we don't see. The truth is, right now you have way too many options. The truth is, life is far more complicated today. The truth is, people get married much later in life, which means they have more baggage inside them. And when they do get married, they come with a good amount of trash now. Kids used to be this force that would glue people together. That's no longer the case. Through social media, you have a good amount of flirtatiousness going on. There is also another inherent problem with just being a human being, which is you get bored. Life is frustrating. If you have any wings about you, life will clip them. And you want to experience being alive. And flirting with another human being does that for you. Having sex outside of the boundaries of marriage will do that for you. Now, you can condemn those who cross certain lines. I mean, that's one thing you can do, but there's a branch connected to it. Okay? Whenever you cross certain lines in your relationship because of your culture, if you were to go to certain parts of the Inuit community, imagine you and I are part of the Eskimo community, right? I come to your house, and Tilia happens to be your wife, okay? Now, you live in a mansion, a 3-story icicle. I go to the 3rd floor, and I'm laying in my bed. All of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. I open the door, there's Tilia. Yes? I am here to offer myself to you. You are our guest. And we're going to give you what we can. May I come in and lay with you? Now, you as the husband, you have no trouble with that. Why? This is how you've been wired by your culture. Now, she can't do that without your approval, of course. Imagine you do that here. It's not going to happen. So when you do that here, what you'll encounter is you'll have emotions that the Eskimos perhaps don't have. And then those emotions are going to manifest themselves, show themselves physically through a fighting, disagreeing, shouting, yelling, maiming, whatever the case may be. Okay? Those folks over there won't do that. You, on the other hand, you may do it. Will there come a time where we will look at marriage in a different way? Perhaps. It's kind of like asking the question, will there ever come a time where we no longer use money, this paper stuff? Maybe. But for now, this is what we have. Is marriage a workable enterprise? For some people, yes. For a lot of people, no. The way society was structured some years ago is that, you save your money, you buy one car, and you have that car until the day you die. Today, that's not the case. You change your car every 3, 4, 5 years. And we do the same thing. I mean, we are a disposable culture and we are a disposable people, and human beings fall in the same thing. We dispose of them. And that should tell you something about the sort of animals that we are. We are creatures of utility. We use things, and when we are satisfied, we throw them away. Okay? Now, it is through religion, it is through politics, it's through culture that says, yes, you have used Talia. Okay? She likes you. Remain civilized. Be with her. No one cares how you feel about her. There is a scene in the movie, I think it's called Magnolia, with Tom Cruise and some Carmen Diaz, right? Where he wants out of the relationship, and she looks at him and says, you can't walk away from me. You and I had sex. And you went inside me. You are part of me, and I'm part of you. You can't just leave. And I think it's very telling that, to some extent, the power of sex, it civilizes us, it makes us responsible, even if we don't want to. There are lots of nuances you have to work with. Even if there is no marriage vows going back and forth, the truth is, the moment you have intimacy with someone, if there is an ounce of attraction, it'll blossom into these profound emotions, and walking away from them is going to be very, very difficult. And there is another aspect. Even if you want to leave, and you go to Tilia and say, I'm leaving you, she's going to express certain facial expressions. Her body language, she may cry, she may be very, very sad, and that's going to impact you, and you'll be thinking twice. And you may want to stay. Not because you want to, but because inside you, you have the power, she has the power to create guilt. And that glues you to her. People don't walk away from things they've created history with easily. It's always, heart-wrenching. Howard? Oh, Jure?
But like how casual relationship or like sexual relationship.
Like Tinder?
Huh?
Tinder? Do you have an account?
Yeah.
Well, you got to make an account, man.
Like how open casual sexual relationships are these days. Do you think sexual intimacy has deep values? Considering how you say how important it is, or how important you feel now, because sex is so much more accessible, and you think that sexual intimacy deep values.
Can I tell you a story? There was a guy, his name is, or was, Alish Shariati. His parents had sent him to France. He got a scholarship from Sorbonne University, so he went there and he got his doctorate in sociology. And he came back home. He came back to Iran, and he was so good that the University of Tehran built a huge temple for him, a lecture hall that could seat over 2,000 people. And every day he would go into the lecture and talk. He was a chain smoker. He was bald. He was very charismatic. And I remember as kids, that's what our entertainment used to be way back then, mosques and lecture halls. And because we didn't have a car, we had to walk about like 20 miles to get to the lecture hall and then back. But we were kids. We were like 5 or 6. To make this journey tolerable for my brother and I, my brother's a year younger, so he was like 4 or 5 and I was 5 or 6. Our parents would buy us a lollipop. Mine was usually red, his was usually green. Our task was one thing, to make sure through the course of this maybe 2-hour walk, we would have our lollipops just licking away for 2-3 hours. Because the moment there was no lollipop to lick, you throw a temper tantrum. And we slowly learned that if you want to make this journey somewhat fun, lick your lollipop slowly. Okay. And you realize something happens to you when you're in the presence of poverty. It forces you to value things. It's like when you get sick, you begin to appreciate those who take care of you. Appreciate your body. Appreciate the fact that you have a roof over your head. You know, that there is a cell phone and someone calls and says, "Hey, Jerry, how are you doing? I heard you were sick." So all the things that you dismissed because of health, because of privilege, because of being rich, and richness plunges you into forgetfulness. Okay? And you become just a thankless animal walking around. And sex used to be the same thing, in the sense that you can't just casually go somewhere and have sex. But there are special places in any big cities where it's just designed. You have certain women there. They're there to perform the art of lovemaking, i.e. sex. They occupy brothels. And men who are bored, who are rich, whatever the case may be, they go to these folks. Okay? They are reminded of what love and passion feel like. Maybe they just get rid of stress and go back home. But they can't be seen because of shame, because of name, because of reputation. Like lollipop. The moment you have sex, you get married. In fact, you can't have sex unless you get married. But when you have every corner someone selling you gum and candies and ice cream, and your pocket is full of money, well, you're just going to take a lick and toss them away and then experiment with something else. Yesterday, I went to La Farine to get some bread. So there were 3 young women walking, all Caucasian, the 3 of them. It was a hot day, granted, okay? And they were all under the age of 18. 2 of them were wearing skirts, if you can call them skirt. And they had no underwear on. And so imagine you're a father or you're a mother walking your kids around. You know, and we easily fall victim to these things. Okay? And imagine if your daughter or your son was to look at this. And then you say, "Oh my God, is my daughter going to be like that 5 years or 10 years from now?" There is another thing about us. We have a tendency of trashing the spirit, the creativity that lives in something. So if there is a woman who thinks really, really well and is profoundly mature emotionally, intellectually, just in case she shows a little skin, you're not going to see her mind. You're not going to see a past that has been processed really well. All you see are legs and buttocks and breasts. That's what we do. So when you have a culture that commodifies, objectifies, just turns everything into meat, then when a woman comes to you and says, "Respect me as a human being," the truth is, I can't. I want to, but I can't. From the moment I was born to this day, everything in my domain has been objectified. What makes you think I have the power to kind of look at you and say, "Ah, what a mature human being"? I can't do that. So when the culture produces or advertises a good amount of trash, all of us become victims. My recommendation would be the following if you want to kind of understand sex a little bit. There is a guy by the name of Hermann Hesse. He wrote this book called Siddhartha. Now, you may not like to read, you may not like to think, but because sex is one of those powerful drives, instinctual drive that lives inside us, my recommendation would be turn the page or chapters until you get to the chapter about Kamala. Kama in Sanskrit means pleasure. So her name is Kamala. Very much like the woman who's going to hopefully be the president. Okay? Kamala has sex. She's a priestess. She lives in a brothel. She's not a prostitute. She is a proficient in the art of lovemaking. Everything that she does, the way she touches you, the way she speaks to you, the way she allows you to put your hands on her, the way she puts her hands on you, they all have a specific function. And if you have sex with an ordinary human being and it's just sex, at a certain point it becomes really, really violent, Kamala will not allow you to do that. She teaches you. But that's not this culture. And even if you were to read books like that, it wouldn't do much for you. But going back to Carmen's question about politics and religion, the moment you bring those ideas down here, you have no choice but to kind of destroy them. Yeah. It's always good not to be saturated with anything. Abi? Abi?
Why do we forget? Why do we
There are a couple of things. Forgetfulness comes about only when there is no intense pain inside you. If I have a toothache that's hitting the nerve, I'm not going to forget that I have a cavity. I will try to, in fact, distract myself in 1,001 different ways. I won't be successful because the pain, it's hitting the nerve, the cavity. Okay? And it doesn't matter where I go, it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter what pills I take. I am constantly reminded that I am in pain and there is no escape from it. You only forget when things are not hitting a nerve. Imagine those moments where you're in love and you want to be with the person whose company you enjoy, but he or she isn't there. You want to sleep, but you can't. You want to forget, but you can't. You say, God damn it, I have to go to work tomorrow and I can't go to work exhausted. And guess what? You can't sleep. And the few minutes that you can sleep, you wake up, it's not enough. You wake up exhausted and in a pissy mood. Okay? So we forget because you're not yet at a stage 4 cancer. There has to also be something out there that has truly captured your attention. In other words, you know you have to go to the doctor because of A, B, C, D. But you also do know that you will forget. So what do? You set your alarm. You just don't set your alarm for 3:45. You set it at 3:22, 3:24, 3:26, 3:27, and 3:25. Because you know that every time the buzzer goes off, you're going to bang on the phone, it's going to shut off, you're going to go back to sleep. So repeatedly, you need to be assaulted. And that's what the phone does. It assaults you. And through that assault, you wake up. And then you try to kind of just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to reschedule it. And then you're going to feel bad and you feel guilty. So you need a whole set of things to come into play. You need pain, you need guilt, and you need someone from the outside or something from the outside to assault you. When you fall in love, you don't need such assaults. It just happens from the inside. Okay? We also forget because, first of all, we are far too distracted. We have our hands on too many things to accomplish. There are too many things to do. Okay? Now, if you were to only be interested in one thing, other things will fall in the sideway, and you can't do that. All things are important. And so you can't give too much attention to any one thing. And so while you're doing this, you forget this. While you're doing this other thing, you forget this other thing. And then it's only late at night before you go to bed. You're like, oh, shucks, I forgot this and this and this and this. One of the, whenever I go to YouTube, especially these like short clips of people who play the cello or oboe or piano or tennis, whatever they're really, really good at. The only thing that captures me about them is, this is like a 22-year-old celloist. What do kids want to do? Kids want to go out there and have a good time with life. To get stuck in a room and keep playing the cello, being spanked, being yelled at, screamed at by your parents. This is the wrong note, having a teacher coming to your house 2-3 times a day, a week, and you have this, all of a sudden, this passion growing inside you. All you think about is the cello. All you dream about is the cello. And you say, man, that is such a beautiful but difficult shortcut to creating for yourself a meaningful life. I mean, most of us, we are casual about a whole host of things. And by the time you're like 30, 40, 50, you realize you do a lot of things, but you're not good at anything. You have zero passion for them. You just do them. You're skillful, but you don't have the gift of passion, And so if you have a passion inside you, it's something you can't forget. Okay? Just to give you an example, and then we'll go to Mark. For me, Monday's class was horrible. And sure, it had to do with the fact that I had zero sleep. I came to the office at 4. I tried to write, and it was pretty decent, but it made me sad. The writing and the thinking did. And I came to class, and I felt flat. And then it was in me the entire day. How come my class was like that? I rarely have classes like that. Even if most days it's kind of just rambling on, I just don't feel flat. Okay? And it pained me. And because of that, it was just in my mind all the time. And I was talking to my wife with a voice that was filled with discontent and unhappiness and anger. I was vicious. I tried to tame as much as I can. I could. But I could feel it. So, we forget because we just don't care. It's not as meaningful, as valuable. Sometimes things can be profoundly valuable, but you have all these other things that occupy you as well. My recommendation, and I'm no one really to recommend anything to anyone, but if I was, I would say the following. If there is something you truly enjoy, you need to understand a couple of things. Because your life is busy, you're not going to give 110% to the thing that inspire you. You need to bring someone from the outside to assault you. But the problem with you not wanting to forget is you have 4 kids, you got a husband, you have a house to take care of, lots of things to do. And the moment you become focused on one thing, you begin to forget the 20 things that demand your attention and responsibility. As I've grown a little bit more mature, when someone comes to the office and says, I want to do philosophy, the first thing I ask them, are you single? Are you attached? Do you have children? You take care of anything that's important in life. What are you studying? Because the moment you say, oh yeah, I'm married with 5 kids. Say, well, I'm just going to give you an A. You want to don't drop the class. I'll just give you an A. Go your way. Because I know that just in case they become a bit too infatuated with the world of ideas, divorce is just right around the corner. And it's going to impact the kids. And I say that because I've experienced it, and it's not fun.
Philosophy tends to be miserable.
Yes. So in some ways, it's a blessing that you and I forget things. It can be a curse as well. If I was to be fully aware of the fact that I have a bum heart, that I go on a walk every day, and there's a chance that I may just fall to the ground and die, and because of that, I should value my time. If I was to think like that, I assure you, I would leave my wife and my kids. I would go seek a shelter somewhere, a hut somewhere, and just write. Mark.
Your thoughts on rejection and having someone feel rejection?
You're talking about like a romantic relationship or?
Yeah.
So let's start from the very beginning. Okay, and forgive me if I bore you. So let's speak father to father. Your child comes home and says, Dad, look at what I drew. And what she's saying, Dad, give me your attention. And whatever you say, and she doesn't say this to you, whatever you say, it's going to impact me. And even though you know what he or she has created is trash, you say it's beautiful. She wants your approval. Just in case you say it's trash, she's going to feel hurt. And she's going to sit in a corner. Says, I'm not loved. I'm not good enough. From the moment we are born, we seek the attention and approval of other people. So much of who and what we are really depends on our environment. Who's there? The people you like, the people you respect, the people you fear, they have a tremendous amount of power over you. Now, when you have people in your life whose ideas and emotions and thoughts you value, it means that their presence increases your value. And when they're not there, or when they give you negative ideas about you, your value goes down. Which means that things on the outside make you, things on the outside break you. Meaning, you are not yet self-sufficient. If that it's a little murky or difficult to grasp, let me give it to you this way. If you have milk in your fridge, you don't need Safeway, you don't need Costco, you don't need 7-Eleven. You are sufficient within the context of milk. It doesn't matter how many cows live on this planet. You want milk? It's right there. You are your own Costco. All you need to do is just walk, grab the milk, pour some, and drink it. If you don't have milk, you desperately need Safeway. Why do you need me to like you? Well, because without me, you're nothing. But why is it that you need me? You and I spend time together. A good amount of me lives inside you, and a good amount of you lives inside me. You and I have created history. And it's not a history that you made on your solitary. It's a joint effort. Part of you is written by me, and part of you is written by you. But because you care more for me, as you should, what I have written in you has more value. So just in case I grab my pencil and begin to erase the things I've written on you, there's going to be a portion of you that is empty space now. What the hell are you going to do with it? You feel rejected, abandoned. And like a kid, you're going to sit somewhere in a fetal position and cry. Now, as adults, we cry in different ways. Maybe you'll go to the gym and punch a boxing bag. Maybe you fight someone. Maybe you drive really fast on the highway. Maybe you smoke. Who the hell cares? Okay? The only reason why rejection hurts us is because we're not completely self-sufficient. Now, if your next question is, and remember, we have no choice but to be insufficient. It happens at the moment of birth. You need people to feed you. You need people to hug you. You need people to care for you. You need a whole host of things. You need a grade for this class. You need me. And when you spend time writing your essays and I fail you, you're going to feel rejected. And you're going to be angry. And just in case you come to my office and you realize it's not going anywhere, you're going to go to my dean and file a complaint, hoping that my dean will talk to me. He will inject some fear inside me, threaten me in some shape or form, and then I will reconsider. Instead of giving you a D, I'll give you a C, even though you don't deserve it. Okay? So remember, if you live in this world and you have a job and you have all sorts of things and you have a rent or a mortgage, you're making payments on your motorcycle or a car or this or that, and you have a child, you have no choice but to be dependent on things on the outside. And you depend on them because they have power over you. And you need that power. Okay? If your child is being bullied at school, you need a principal who will listen to you and won't reject your complaint. That's going to piss you off. And then you say, damn, I got to take out my kid from this school and plant them in somewhere else. Who's got time for all that nonsense? But you got to do it nevertheless. If you want to be self-sufficient, if that's the next question, you have to have many gallons of milk inside you. Know your race. Know what it means to be in a capitalistic environment. Understand the force of technology. Understand why you need to be in a relationship. Understand the ins and outs of sex. Understand the reason as to why we communicate, why we go to school. You have to understand a whole host of things. And the more you understand, the less you'll begin to care. And the less you care, the more detached you'll become. And the more detached you become, the less power other things have over you. And the less power they have over you, the more free you are. Which means their judgment, their perception of you, it's not going to impact you as much. Now, when you talk about romantic relationship, you have something profoundly devastating. What I just said in the past, like 5 minutes, they're mostly intellectual. They're what we call rationality or logic. In romanticism, what you have is the absence of rationality and the eruption of emotions. In romantic relationships, you don't think, you just feel. Okay? Once you get to the feeling position, it doesn't matter even if Jesus Christ was to come down and give you a piece of advice, you won't take it. Because your ears are clogged. I remember many, many years ago, my teacher had come to the car wash to help me out with washing some cars and just to see how I'm doing, if I haven't killed myself yet. I said, Hussein, I think there is a girl over there I like. And she was the sister of my best friend. She says, what? You think she's attractive? Yeah, she's attractive. She says, before we have any more conversation about this, let me ask you a question. I said, sure, Hussein, what is it? Are you in love with her? The truth was that I was. But I was too embarrassed to tell him yes. So I said, no. He said, in that case, we can continue our conversation. Because if you were in love, I would have no power over that. Love is like this king. No one has power over it. The sort of emotions it creates. If you're at a place where you feel rejected and you're consumed by emotions, it doesn't matter what books you read, it doesn't matter what workshops you go to, it doesn't matter what lectures you listen to, it makes no difference. You have to wait like the people in Florida. Just wait for the hurricane to pass by. And there is no timetable. It can be a week or 2 or 3. Maybe for you it'll take 2 years. Who the hell knows? But once it passes, then rationality, your ability to see and to think and to process will kick in. And now you begin to decipher, decode, process things, break them down, and see what lives inside. And then you'll be surprised because you'll tell yourself something really interesting. Man, you're so lucky that she left you because she's garbage. But until that time, you have no choice but to suffer. In relationships, usually the person who has most power, someone who cares less than you, has power more than you, which means that whatever they say, however they look at you, is going to impact you. Never, ever, 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 ever fall in love with someone who has trauma on the inside, because they have lost their ability to be intimate with you, to form an intimate, close, emotional relationship. They have lost that ability. So when you tell them, I don't want to be in this relationship, they will look at you and say, bye. That's it. Don't you like at least beg a little bit? Okay? And in this day and age, where almost everyone has a checkered past, you want to be very, very, very careful. But in rejection, what you'll feel is a tremendous amount of isolation and loneliness, sadness, depression. It's like the sun has been removed from your life and all there is are these dark clouds. And you have no choice but to be a host to these negative feelings and emotions. And people around you will suffer, especially if you have children, because they have no idea what the hell is happening to you. They want your attention, but your attention is elsewhere, you know. So it's good to just understand what darkness and depression and loneliness, how they're made, what's inside them. You know, yeah. Yeah, there is no easy road. It's going to be tough. Oh, I'm sorry, what time is it?
Almost done. 5 minutes left.
Oh, 5 minutes left, okay. Anything? Yeah, Har, hold on, Connor.
I was just gonna. My question is that you seem to have a lot of experience with life in general. How disappointing it can be. Please continue.
Well, so there are a couple of things, and it's something we've talked about before. There are two main, there are a whole host of branches and shades to this, but the two main ones are you're either an introvert or an extrovert. And they are given to you at the moment of your birth. And there isn't much you can do. You know, if you're an Apple, all of a sudden you can't be a Macintosh. Or are they both the same?
They're the same. They're just kind of.
But you just said that, but whatever. I don't know my computers too well. So, introverts happen to be a bit more introspective, which means that I will take your question, okay, and I will take it home with me. and I will internalize it. And the problem with internalization is the following. You can't find the answer in books. It's kind of like his question. Once you reject it, what the hell do you do? Well, the emotion goes inside you. And it's like a plant that just grows and takes over your entire being. And then it impacts you in ways that extroverts don't really understand. At a certain point, if you happen to be in the right place, if you have the skills, you begin to kind of break this thing, this food inside you, this experience, to see what's inside. And then you'll little by little understand all the ingredients that live inside this particular dish. And then once you become addicted in that particular habitual thinking and feeling, everything that comes in your way, you'll just break it down.
Philosophers,
I'm sorry?
like many a philosopher before.
Yeah, like a good number of philosophers, yeah.
I like Socrates, he's the best.
Yeah, he's a not so attractive human being, but man, I wouldn't mind sleeping with him.
He spoke the truth, at least what he knew.
You know, laying next to him and having him whisper truth into my ears, that would sound good.
Oh no, not for me. It sounds like a disgusting person.
Yes.
Like anyone under the He was very slovenly, had no job.
It's a good
knew
catch.
The weather.
It's good to see all of you. See you next week, Monday. Take care.
Have a wonderful day.
I'm sorry?
Is class Monday? Because they said it was
Indigenous Day?
yeah.